All right, hello everybody. We're going to get going today and talk about some assessments, formal and informal, and how we can be culturally responsive with these assessments. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to evaluate the quality of these assessments. Okay, and just a quick brief. Okay, so formative remembers throughout the unit, and this gives us more chance to adjust and make culturally responsive adjustments to individualize and kind of enhance that learning throughout the duration of the unit. Summative is obviously that end of unit assessment. Not a lot of time for reflection. You're moving on to that next unit after that. So when we're looking at the quality, we really want to look at dissecting our teacher goals versus student outcomes. So what we wanted to get throughout that time, and then what actually happened when we collected the data and outcomes from the assessments. Okay, we could also get feedback from our students after that assessment, and that'll kind of help us see what the quality is through their eyes, and if it went really well or if a lot of students struggled with it or not. So that's another idea we can do for quality. We really want to reflect on each assessment and make adjustments. Okay, so we need to reflect on every assessment we do and find those weaknesses, find those strengths, make those adjustments, and prepare for that next time. And once we have done that, we can look at data and do some research, and that'll help us find quality assessment tools that we can use next time. So where we found those holes or gaps in our assessment, then we can look and find that quality assessment tool to use next time. Also, when we're making these assessments or evaluating them, we need to understand our audience because each class is going to be very different. They're going to have a different dynamic, and they're going to respond differently to different assessments. So if you've already had this grade last year or prior, you're going to know a lot more about how they respond to different assessments and can kind of base what you choose off of that prior experience. Okay, if they're brand new, maybe it'd be good to talk to a teacher that did have them and get a little discussion going about that. Let's look at implementing these assessments. Okay, so when we're looking at implementing those formal, those summative assessments, we really wanted to look at deciding that assessment prior to building the unit. So have that end goal in mind right away, and that will be your guide as you build that unit and choose informal assessments throughout it. Okay, and then again, like I just talked about, we need to understand that class that you have, their strengths and weaknesses, because that's going to really help you decide how to implement this assessment and which type of assessment you're going to do. And then again, getting the students' feedback after that. Okay, because if this is your first unit of the year, that'll be a good time to get feedback from your students after that assessment, so that way you can know that and learn from it, pushing on through the year. Okay, we also need to use our resources. So you have your instructional coaches or your admin, and discuss with them the assessment, the pros and cons, or what they see or think needs changed. I would do that before choosing the assessment and after. Okay, but definitely after, because that's going to give you a lot of feedback, and you'll already have seen it in action, that assessment. You'll have seen the students' responses, the grades, the data. So that'll really build on that discussion that you have with your instructional coach or your admin. Okay, then when you're looking at informal assessments, these are going to be spread out. We're going to implement them throughout the unit, and they're going to lead up to that formal. Okay, these are much easier to individualize, okay, and adjust because they're so much more constant and repeating. So use that to your advantage. Make that culturally responsive. Make that individualized. Work hard at that. Use these to really check for understanding, because these informal assessments are going to, if as long as you're cognitively aware of what you're looking for, you're going to see patterns and be able to make really good adjustments off that. Okay, so we want to do that, and we want to do that to maximize our learning and progress with that intent for that final summative assessment at the end of the unit. Okay, then when we're interpreting the data, okay, when we're analyzing that data, I had just some do's and don'ts here. So have clarity of intended student outcomes and expectations. So when you're interpreting the data, you need to make sure when you're going through that unit, your students to know what their expectations are. Okay, because for the data to be accurate, you need to make sure that your students are on the same page as you. Then next, we also want to dissect that assessment. So we want to see those results, those grades, and I would break them down into 3 tiers. Okay, look at a lower tier, a middle, and the students that are excelling, because that's going to help you find patterns on what's happening on the lower, the middle, and the upper, and it might also give you a pattern of which questions or what part of that assessment didn't go well for anybody. So we really want to break that down. Okay, and then you want to reflect on the unit and what was misunderstood most and how it could be improved. I would also highly recommend that we do peer analyzation. So work with somebody and analyze the data that you came up with and get some feedback. You know, have them go over it without you even talking about it first. Have them go over it and give you feedback, and then you give feedback on what you saw, and just have that really good constructive conversation. That's going to be huge for your growth, and it's going to help you build a relationship with that peer. Okay, and then make sure we're giving our students that meaningful feedback to help them as well. Okay, just like when our peers giving us feedback, we want to give our students feedback 100% of the time, so that again we're on the same page and we're learning together. Okay, don't assume student understanding, because it's got to be clear what the expectations are and what skills you want them to master. So don't just assume after day 1 and you said it once that they are going to continue to remember what is expected of them. Okay, and like I said, don't use the average results. Okay, break it down because we want to individualize it to each student. So if we just take the average, that's not going to give us that good breakdown that we need in order to analyze it successfully. Don't give up on the assessment if it doesn't go the way you wanted. Okay, that happens all the time. Every teacher knows that nobody makes an assessment perfect the first time. Nobody makes a lesson perfect the first time. So don't just throw it out. Okay, have that discussion with your peers. Break it down. Do some reflection. Change it and adapt with it so it's ready for next time. Okay, and then don't just give the grades back and move on to the next unit. Like I said, provide students with feedback. Have open discussion. Maybe get a survey. Okay, don't just give grades. Don't just push that data out and move on. So cultivating capacity to improve our instruction. So what are we going to do as the staff to make sure that we are creating really great assessments to help our students achieve? Okay, so first, professional development. I'm going to have us break down our summative assessments used year-round and throughout the building. We're going to get just an idea of what type of format we're all using, and look at what's working for our students and what might not be, and kind of try and just dive into it. And we might find patterns, we might not, but I think that'll give us somewhat of an idea, and we might be able to get some good data from that. We're already going to annually attend one seminar or workshop related to your content area. So I'll work hard at trying to find those for you, but I'm going to also expect you to do some research for yourself and hopefully find one that you really want to attend, and then I'll get you going to that. We're going to do some small group stuff during professional development times, and we're going to in these small groups, I'm going to have 1 or 2 of those teachers bring with them a unit or lesson they found online, so not one they've used. And that small group's just going to analyze it. They're going to synthesize. They're going to break it down and really just bring it back to that ground level stuff that you almost haven't talked about, or maybe had discussion about since college. Okay, that first number one thing of just building that lesson plan and what that looks like. Okay, then we're going to improve our first and second year induction program, so that's going to look a bit different. We're going to get them more involved in activities or action teams, events, things like that, and not even necessarily all the time to participate or have an active role, because I know they're already overwhelmed. with being their first, second year, but I want to get them there to at least observe and have discussions with the people that have been involved and just learn and really just develop them within the school. We're going to do some meaningful feedback, so that's going to be coming from me. Most of the time, we're going to do a performance observation once per semester with a previously decided unit. So I'm going to have you send me a unit that you want me to come look at, and then I'll show up, with that unit, so that way I can know what you've been teaching prior to this observation and what's expected during this lesson and what that final assessment of the unit looks like. That'll help me give you much better feedback. Then also in small groups, I'm going to have teachers bring their own unit or lesson and do that same analysis and discussion within their group, and that'll help again having multiple outsiders' perspectives to give you feedback and really grow and adapt and make adjustments that you might need, or just get ideas from your peers that might be really good. And then once in a while, probably once a semester, or it might just be for that observation, those unit outlines, I'm going to have you post or email them to me, because it might not just be that one performance observation. It might just be me stopping into your classroom at some random point, and I just wanted to get your unit so that way I have information on what I'm walking into. And then we're obviously student focused. I'm going to make sure that each unit you provide me and that you create for your curriculum has at least one social emotional skill focus included. So it doesn't have to directly relate to your unit, but it has to be some type of that skill set that you can keep in the back of your mind to enforce on your students during that unit and try and really teach them an important social emotional skill that'll stay with them, far beyond just the educational world. And then we're going to request student feedback after each unit. We've kind of talked about that, so I'm going to help you out with that and giving some Google Form surveys, group discussions. But getting that feedback, I think, is going to be some good data to get from our classes. And then one per quarter, we're going to do a positive parent outreach. So that's only 4 times a year. I'm kind of hoping we already do that or have more than that. But I'm thinking without a parent reaching out to you, I want you to see a student, do something really well or succeed in something that they haven't in a long time or maybe never, and then just reach out and give that parent something positive about their child. And then lastly, the why behind it all. So there's going to be a lot, working on this stuff. I know it sounds like a lot, but we're going to grow professionally and personally throughout this time. We're going to be building relationships through all these conversations and discussions we have. We're going to gain a lot of knowledge and understanding of assessment data and just how to create really good assessments. We're going to enhance our student experiences and help our students excel. We're going to learn how to individualize these assessments and make them culturally responsive. So there's just a lot of really great things that can come from these projects and things we're about to implement and start up. With that, that's all I have. Let's open up for questions and have some open discussion.